Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 103 of the Great Canadian Hockey Podcast. I'm James Parisi here with my co-host Aiden Sarah, and dude, it's almost the Olympic break. We're almost there. We are sniffing distance from it. Less than 2 weeks,
Oh yeah, are you kidding me? Less than 2 weeks till they start.
and that's all I really want to hop into right now because I've had some fun outside of hockey. I've done a handful of interesting things. I had a buddy's birthday where we did the Kobe Steakhouse thing again, and we went to the Blarney Stone, and I realized that I don't want to hang out in the same club establishment that a bunch of 22-year-old dudes named Chet hang out in. Like a very, very like a lot of "Do you know who my dad is?" kind of energy, and that's like kind of ridiculous, but great times nonetheless. Got to see some good friends. Had a hilarious time at a Chinese barbecue, getting quite pinned and ordering $360 worth of meat skewers and random assorted fried things on a stick.
How
Uh,
many how many people for $360 worth of meat?
Three, including myself.
That's wild. I
Yeah,
respect it, but it's wild.
yeah. Well, there was also like a few pitchers in there. There was also like a bottle of sake in there,
Okay. No,
and
I
then
was
there's like
picturing I
buns.
was picturing a $360 pile of raw meat that you were about to cook in front of you.
They cook it for you actually.
Oh, in the Chinese
Yeah,
one?
they
Yeah,
cook
yeah,
it and bring
yeah.
it up on skewers. And I actually have seen, I turned around one time when me and my buddies were there. This place is called Happy Tree Barbecue. And on the side it says like good times and like lifestyle. They play K-pop at an aggressively loud volume. The bathrooms are disgusting. The service is incredible, and the food is cheap for the amount and quality you get. And quite tasty. And like it's a good social hangout. Very cheap pitchers of beer too. But yeah, the one time we were there, one of my buddies nudged me and I turned around and looked, and there's just like three huge dudes who look like their name would be Boomer in like an old like football movie or something like that. And they've got like the biggest pile of meat skewers. Like it's got to be like $400 worth of just chicken and beef all at once. And I look over and I'm like, "Oh, sick!" And the guy nods at me. He's like, "Yeah." Yeah, it was quite good. I love that spot. I'll have to bring you there sometime. It's a good time. But yeah, I mean, I haven't done a hell of a lot more else other than that. I went to a couple card shows. I've been ripping hockey packs again. I pulled the Demidov Young Gun rookie, which is definitely the hot one for this year's Series 1. Um me and roommate Caleb are getting really excited though because Upper Deck in their extended series, which is like they do series 1 and 2 and now they do an extended.
Oh
They're
wow.
having the debut rookie jersey in patches, like for every rookie. So Schaefer's first jersey that he wore in an NHL game is going to be split between all these patch cards, and this has never been done before. So that's gonna be pretty cool. I'm looking forward to cracking some of those. We also opened a hobby box of the Blackhawks Centennial set, and a lot of the original six teams have done this so far. But you get everyone from like Stan Mikita to Connor Bedard in here. It's quite cool. I ended up with autographs of Cristobal Huet and Greg Mulvey. Um, Mulvey was a Blackhawks captain at one point, but um, like Caleb got a Michel Goulet auto in there, and I saw this one guy get like a a Stan Mikita, I think, but like a sticker auto, of course, and then other people get like such cool things like a Taves and Kane duel or like a Bedard patch autograph. Really cool stuff. Like they're doing a lot of awesome things with hockey cards again, and Upper Deck has the monopoly on hockey cards nowadays, and for a few years it was quite terrible, but they've really picked it back up. So if any of you guys listening, I mean, you guys are all in deep hockey nerds if you're listening to this. So if you're listening, pick up a pack of cards. It's a good time. It's a nice quick little entry point too, with like the little $30 blaster packs. Aiden, remember when you would open a bunch of packs and there would be a bunch of just dud packs? They don't do that anymore. Now there's 4 packs instead of 9 packs in there, and each one has 3 little hits in it. A lot more fun. But anyway, let's do that hockey. Let's get to it. Aiden, there's a lot of hockey to cover, and most of it I'm pretty excited to talk about. And let's start things off with a pretty legendary area, Patrick Kane. We've been talking about him all week because earlier in the week he tied Mike Modano for most points among American-born players, and then I believe last night, the night before, we're recording this on Friday, January 30th. He made a nice, slick little pass to Alex DeBrincat. DeBrincat makes another pass over to Ben Sherratt for a one-timer. And there it is. Kane is the highest scoring American-born player of all time. Mike Modano's been around a lot for this. He had his kids take a picture with Kane. I thought that was awesome. And Aiden, it's been really cool. I'm a massive Patrick Kane fan. Loved watching him through his career, and I love the the elder statesman he's become in the league. There's just so much respect from the younger players and this surging Red Wings team around him.
He's had a much better experience in Detroit than Mike Modano did. That's for sure.
Yes, that's for
Um,
sure. The jokes have
and
been flying.
oh
Like,
yeah,
too bad Babcock isn't there to hold him out from beating the
yeah.
record.
Well, and it's a Detroit team that's second in their division and 2 points behind the like absolutely on fire, torching through everybody Tampa Bay Lightning. So this is a Red Wings playoff year
Hmm.
that we're seeing Patrick Kane be a part of, and it's a Red Wings playoff year in a year that I'm looking through, and they got a lot of guys that are still underachieving. So this is a big moment for Kane, but throughout his career, James, regular season points haven't been what's made him a legend. So we'll see. We'll see if there's more to come in the Red Wings jersey in the playoffs.
I'm hoping one of the small forwards on the States. I mean, I don't hope for an injury, but I hope one of them has to get replaced so that they'll bring in Kane.
I don't think
I
Kane
don't
is.
think they will either, but
Yeah,
I think they should. I like that Canada brought Doughty, even though there's better defensemen than him to play. You need one of those guys. You need that guy that's been there and been a part of it and is a huge part of the history. And I don't think the States has that at all. One of those guys who could end up being replaced is someone we're going to talk about next. And that, my friend, is Jack Hughes. Out again. We had a trade in our fantasy keeper league last night, or maybe the night before. My days are all mixed up, but the the central part of it was Matthew Kachuk for Jack Hughes. And I hopped in our group chat and I said they're calling it the Band-Aid blockbuster. And I don't know, I felt pretty clever for that, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, Aiden Jack Hughes out with a lower body injury. Didn't see too many specifics on it. He's been in and out of the lineup this season. He had the infamous Chicago cut incident, and there's was all the stuff with him and a Canadian pop star, and I mean it's just he's he's getting in the headlines for like all the wrong reasons this year. Like typically when Jack Hughes is in the headlines, it's because he's on a crazy tear and he just had 3 4 point games in a 2 week span. And I mean, say what you will about his game. I definitely like a different style of game, but he can create offense out of nothing. His creativity and skill with the puck is in that top echelon, and it sucks to see him out of the lineup. But I I just wonder how many times the Devils can bang their head against the wall and hope that it's going to get them into playoffs.
that's
I don't know if
fair.
you knew I was going to be taking it this direction, but like Jesper Bratt is having his worst season in years. Nico Hischier is having a solid season for the two-way center, but not what we've seen the past couple seasons. Dougie Hamilton's play is jacked up right now because they're all of a sudden flooding him with minutes because they want to trade him, and he's playing the best offensive hockey he's played in years. But it's just it's the worst season we've seen out of Jacob Markstrom in New Jersey. It's the most depleted we've seen their blue line. It's a mess, man. And it starts to make you wonder, like, New Jersey spent all of this time putting this core together, right? Is this the core that they're going to try and win with? They had one moment where they made it into a second round. Woo, that's awesome. So happy for you. You know who else did that in Vancouver? Vancouver did that. It's not special. It's cool at the time, but it doesn't really mean much in the end. Like unless you have sustained success of going into the playoffs and doing damage with your young core, you have to make big changes. And I think obviously this whole conversation started with me talking about Jack Hughes, but Aiden, I don't think this is the roster to get it done with. I love Jesper Bratt. I love Nico Hischier. I'm starting to really come around to Nemec. Um, Gritzuk is kind of a fun complementary piece, but like you could do without him. He's not really, that's not an essential thing. I've flipped back and forth on Timo Meyer. Um, I don't really think you're going to be able to replace the creativity of Jack Hughes without having to draft in the top three, and you're not going to be able to do that. Sorry. So I just don't really know where they go from here at all.
Yeah, usually when a team's like this, I'll have like an answer where even if that's not going to be what the team commits to, I'll say, okay, well, you should do this. And then 2 years later, the team does that because they wanted to sell some tickets
And
first.
because they were listening to you.
No, not that one. But I look at this core, and even the tendency that I have to say, okay, well, take a step back, think long term. That's a little bit hard because as much as yeah, Jesper Brad and Nico Hischier aren't having the offensive seasons that we're used to them having, this is still 26, 27, 27, 28 year olds in their prime, and two guys that could easily. Hischier's a 35 goal scorer and an 80-point player at his best. Jesper Bratt likewise, at least, right? They're two very, very underrated players. But
Oh, I'm a
with
huge Brat fan.
yeah, but when you're looking at nothing but injury problems everywhere else in the lineup, including the guy that's supposed to be your first line center, it is not easy to handle the switching between Hischier playing that number one center where he's got all the matchups against him and still balancing the responsibilities he has as the captain and as a two-way centerman. Like it's that hit to lose Jack Hughes, if for no other reason than the hole it leaves in your lineup and the amount of extra work that gets put onto the plate of Nico Hischier. Dawson Mercer has not emerged as a second line center really, but he's having an awesome season. So if you can keep this kind of Dawson Mercer trajectory alive, then you look around and you say, okay, we got the step out of Simon Nemec this year into being a top four defenseman. It's time to see, is Luke Hughes going to make that step? Is Jack Hughes going to take a step into being the 99-point player we saw him be a couple of years ago? Because realistically, Hughes in his whole career has only had two full NHL seasons. So you're still waiting in this New Jersey team, I think, for a couple guys to take steps into being the big name. Like Luke Hughes could still be the number one headline defenseman for the New Jersey Devils that
Ready?
that anchors the back end. Yeah, for sure.
You're
And you know
confident
what?
about that?
I'm looking around the defense, and yeah, like I like the idea of bringing in somebody to replace Dougie Hamilton to pair with Jonas Siegenthaler, and then have Luke Hughes and Brett Pesci be your everything, and maybe it's Simon Nemec that plays with Siegenthaler, and that's your top four right there.
You've got Kovacevic and Casey too.
Yeah, it's about the steps those players take, right? Like I think New Jersey is going to be they're in a position where they've brought in Lenny Hamanaho up from the Utica Comets. He's having a great season. He's had a great start with New Jersey since he got there. It's going to need to be a mix. You're going to need a couple more of those guys who have to come up. They've got Anton Salayev in the system. You said it yourself. They have Seamus Casey in the system. It's going to be a mix of how many of those guys can we get to step into roles, and then how can we edit around these guys that we still need to take a step. So it's almost like it's a couple seasons here where New Jersey needs a few things to go right. They need the top players like Jack Hughes to have their health intact, maintained. You've got guys like the Lenny Hamanahos who need to come up and start taking on more significant roles. And then you've got the general manager. What can you do around these core players without giving up Bratt, Hischier, Hughes, probably Meyer you're not going to want to give up. Dawson Mercer has some value, but he's been a warrior for them. It would be a hit to lose him.
Well, Aiden, those moves have already started because we've had the aforementioned Dougie Hamilton drama, but GM Tom Fitzgerald has convinced Andre Palat to waive his no move clause and be sent to the New York Islanders. Aiden, I don't exactly recall the details of that trade, but I don't think the return was very much. They did pay the Islanders to send him over, right?
Yeah, well, it was Palata third and a sixth for Maxim Tsiplikov.
Oh yeah, okay.
Last season, Siplikov would have had some value. He hasn't had the same year this year as he did last year. Kind of that
No,
Nikita Gusev thing where you come over, you have a great first season, and then you're kind of asked to do more total NHL stuff and not just score. And you start to take the hit of focusing all of your attention into playing offensively. Um, I think Tiplikov's got a lot of skill. I don't hate the idea of injecting him into a power play spot or a top six spot just while you have all these injuries for the Devils. Like Cody Glass has had some success moving up and down. Connor Brown has had some success. You mentioned Gritziak already. Hamanaho's been moving up and down. I don't hate Siplikov being thrown into that blender. But even more than that, yeah, you're right. Andre Palat has had a really, really, really bad season. He was not playing good hockey. He was not producing at all. The Islanders get a vet.
he's already scored on the power play and on the
Yeah,
island. Yeah,
that's true. The Isles get a vet to add to a team of veterans that are just trying to have another kick at the playoff can.
100%. And the Devils do something really useful there, something conducive to their goal of making a big splash and shaking the roster up. This clears $6 million off the books, Aiden, and this makes a potential Dougie Hamilton trade where you're moving out a big player and you are taking a contract or two back in the short term. And who knows, all the things flopping around. So watch for Fitzgerald and the Devils to make a big trade of some kind, whether it's at the deadline this year, whether it's the draft. It's something that's going to happen in the relatively near future, and it's something I look forward to. A deadline you got to watch for is the Olympic trade freeze, and that one is February 4th at 3 p.m. All the way up until February 22nd. So it's January 30th. We're definitely going to see another move before the trade freeze. I'd be shocked if we didn't. The Islanders have been busy outside of that Palat acquisition, going and getting Carson Soucy from the Islanders for a third rounder. So I remember I saw an Islanders fan break down those trades, and basically they got their third rounder back in that deal.
Mm-hmm.
They traded Siplikov for Soucy, a sixth, and Palat. I think that's pretty sweet asset management. I'll take that, especially because they got Siplikov for free.
Yeah, and it's been a defense for the Islanders that have struggled this year. Ryan
Hmm.
Pulock, man, Ryan Pulock and Adam Pelech, that was a top pair. I know they went under the radar a lot, but that was a top pair of defense, and both of them, man, are not having good seasons. They are both like you can see over the last few years, and you can see in their play that they've been declining in effectiveness. And Adam Pelech this season, like, if you watch some of these Islander games, when Pelech has been playing with D'Angelo, you see the holes that creates. Pelech hasn't been like that anchor that somebody like D'Angelo needs because Tony D'Angelo is just an absolute wild card. Like he can be anywhere on the ice at any given moment.
Yep.
And so it's not the worst idea in the world actually to me to bring in like a Carson Soucy. You have Pelech and Scott Mayfield rather as like a solid, okay, do your job, shut down the opposition, play defense. And then Soucy is more your anchor to your Tony D'Angelo.
It's perfectly timed as well because since they're committing to the idea of a playoff push now that they're this far, what, close to 60 games into the season, 50 something games into the season. Um, Alexander Romanov still out with injury. So if you're going to be making that push, you need to fill that hole. When it was looking like they were just playing with found money and seeing what this team could do, and having fun with it was fine not to have a player to fill that gap. But now they make the move. They assure that group that they care and that they believe in them and they want to see them do as much as they can every time. And I think that's the way you need to develop these young guys and the way you need to instill hope and confidence in your core. So I'm excited to see it. But Aiden, next I would like to take it to the other New York team, New York Rangers. Big moves on the horizon as sports media is painting out for us. A lot of talk about Vinny Trocheck, but even more talk about Artemi Panarin. Aiden, can you shed some light on the Panarin situation for our listeners?
Yeah, it's been since the start of the year. We've known this contract was expiring, so it was either going to be kind of like the New York Rangers and the self rental. You know, he's going to leave, but have him around yourself for one more playoff run, or it was going to be somebody else's rental. Now, when I say rental, that is, of course, referring to the rental of this contract. The Rangers would likely be able to easily retain half of this salary to bring his $11.6 million cap hit down to 5.8. But Artemi Panarin, with the no trade clause and with the long, long list of suitors that would love his help on their team, has the cards in his hand. And Panarin has said that he wants an extension to come with the trade. As of right now, there are three frontrunners. There's one frontrunner. It's the Washington Capitals with the Carolina Hurricanes and Los Angeles Kings right there in the background. If it's Washington, James, they've got some decent pieces, and they've got some. You said the word found money in reference to the New York Islanders. I'm going to give you some more found money. Somebody like a Justin Sordiff for the Washington Capitals. You've got Sordiff. You've got Connor McMichael, right? Who I think is another guy.
I think McMichael would go in that deal.
Yeah, I think McMichael would go because you've brought up Ryan Leonard. Alexei Protas is still like he just turned 25. I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. There's players on this Washington team that you can move and you can replace. I really like the idea of Panarin and Ovechkin linking up for one more kick at the playoff can as well, especially with the season that Tom Wilson, Dylan Strome are having. Like you don't get these seasons out of those two guys. Like they're great players, but nothing is guaranteed with them. And
Hendrix
Dylan
Lapierre
Strome,
is another option.
yeah, Lapierre's been kind of buried in that Washington lineup, but he's got upside for sure. And again, to me, that's somebody the Rangers would want. I hate to say it, but anytime I think of a trade with the Rangers that involves a young player going back the other way, I just picture them getting ruined in the ruins that are the New York Rangers and young players. Like I look at this Carolina Hurricanes thing and I think, oh man, poor Alexander Nikishin going over there to where young prospects go to die. But if the Rangers don't mess this up, there's a nice return coming for Panarin. There would be almost maybe an even nicer return for a Vinny Trocheck, James, just based on the demand for centers.
I think there's a bigger return for Trocheck for
Yeah.
sure, especially with the term involved as well at a very manageable cap hit for the caliber of player.
Rangers have an opportunity.
The list of teams for Vincent Trocheck, I think it would include every single one of those teams that every time you read an article, it says they're looking for a center and a defenseman. They're looking for a second line center. Every team in the NHL wants a second line center. I think there's maybe like six that don't. So you subtract six from the amount of playoff and fringe playoff teams. It's probably 15 teams that would trade for Vinny Trocheck today.
We mentioned how good Tampa Bay are, 34, 14, and 4, first place in the Atlantic. Would not be surprised if they were in the market for center help, especially with the absence of Braden Point right now. And apparently the Tampa Bay Lightning, James, would move Sam O'Reilly for immediate help. It is the prospect they got from the Edmonton Oilers last summer. I wasn't like super high on him out of the draft, but since he's been drafted, he's just been another animal. Like he's
you and I both loved him at the World Juniors.
Yeah, he's a tenacious forechecker, and I'm looking at him as somebody that can slot in anywhere in an NHL lineup. He was a center. He's been playing more wing since he got drafted, since the Easton Cowan Denver Barkey group of the London Knights kind of moved on because he started the year with London and then ended up getting traded to Kitchener. But O'Reilly, to me, that would be a perfect centerpiece for the New York Rangers. Just because I look at O'Reilly and I see a can't miss NHL, or even if it's not a can't miss stud, if it's not a can't miss top six forward, it's a can't miss NHL, or even if it's a middle six or a bottom six role, I look at him and I still think you're going to be a crazy effective NHLer.
Hayden, I'm going to name a few New York Rangers players because I think they're the number one fire sale candidate when we get up to the deadline, especially after that letter we talked about last episode. I'm going to name a few players, and I'm going to ask you for the destination you think they'll end up in. First things first, Artemi Panarin.
Washington. I think
I'm
it's
so
Washington. Yeah, I was saying Toronto all year, and I still think that would have made a lot of sense had they not been bad and are now sellers at this deadline.
Vinny Trocheck.
Oh, that one is difficult again because of what you said. It's the every single team in on it. But honestly, dude, I think Florida. I think he's gonna go to Florida.
That'd be sick.
The Panthers are a team without Alexander Barkov that you can't tell me that they don't want another they don't want another run at this. Like Florida are going to make a move, and in the absence of Barkov, I have a feeling it's everything at Trocheck they can.
It's funny. I have Trocheck on my team in our fantasy keeper league right now, but the last time that I had him was when he was a Florida Panther. So that would be
Dude,
funny. Full circle moment.
you can't let him go because I don't see any way that you get the value for Trocheck that you
No,
actually
no,
deserve. Yeah.
no, no. He's a fantastic player in fantasy. That's a guy who, if you have a keeper pool, if you have a single season pool, that is someone who you will always be able to get later than his production value should suggest. But Aiden, I want to ask about another center, and this is one that people aren't talking about too much, but I think he'd be a fantastic trade candidate for a team looking for some depth up front. Sam Carrick of the New York Rangers. Where would he be a good fit? Think about teams looking for a depth center. I've got one in mind already.
What do you think?
I think the Carolina Hurricanes would love to have a Sam Carrick.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, he wasn't very good in Edmonton when they picked him up for that playoff run, but he's
Mhm.
been better everywhere else.
Another name for you, Braden Schneider. Apparently, they're not very happy with him in New York, and he's one of the names on the table. Where is a place he could go and get a fresh start? This is a right-handed defenseman who I was at one time extremely high on, and I think I might still be.
He's effective. Like he's good. It's just he again, the Rangers don't seem to ever be deploying him in the situations that I think he can excel at the most. Like he's kind of being always forced into a box that I don't really know how equipped he is to play in it. Tampa Bay is another team that I could see trying to take a lick at a Braden Schneider. Like I think Tampa are in to win this year. And with the
I
injuries
think
they've had
Tampa
on
adds
their
another right-handed defenseman.
would Schneider would Schneider and McDonough not be a perfect second pair? Now
Where are
this is
where are
thinking.
Moser, Hedman, and Radish playing?
See, I don't. I'm not counting Victor Hedman in right now because I'm thinking
Right.
about like them just trying to maintain where they are, maintain the level that
Right.
they're playing. Because there are two defensemen on this team at a time without Victor Hedman that I'm looking at. Like you can't be leaning on these guys in the playoffs,
Right.
right? And JJ Moser, Darren Radish, Ryan McDonough, Eric Chernak are their top four right now. But I still actually think you need a sixth. And I don't know if Schneider's there long term. I don't know if a defenseman moves out for him, but if Tampa's going to win the cup, I'm looking at a right side of Darren Radish, Eric Chernak, and Braden Schneider. I'm saying that might just do it. That might just do it if you've got JJ Moser and then hopefully as much of Victor Hedman as you can get in that defense as well. I know that was a little bit of an unconventional one, but I'm just thinking about those teams at the top of the league and whose window is closing, right? Like
Yeah.
that's why I think Florida's going to go all in for Trocheck. That's why I think Tampa's going to be all in, like Washington as well. You're not going to win in 2028 any of these teams,
I
none of
like
them.
Minnesota for Trocheck.
Yeah, that's another good one. Well, they
If
didn't
they're already
replace
pushing the chips in, like why not?
yeah. They didn't replace
Uh,
Marco Rossi at all.
I got another one for you. Will Borgen.
Oh, that's a good player.
I like Will Borgen,
Yeah.
man. That's your ideal number four.
It's hard not to say Edmonton at every turn when you've got a defenseman, especially a right-handed defenseman, which they don't ever seem to be able to produce. We're gonna talk about Dallas eventually when we talk about Nazem Kadri. They're another team who have really, really leaned on their top four. I think Thomas Harley and Will Borgen might just be your perfect second pair. They've been playing Heiskanen on his offside with Essa Lindell. And then they've been playing Nils Lundqvist with Thomas Harley. Thomas Harley hasn't had the same season that he did last year. That was probably never going to happen just because of the role.
Contract hangover.
Well, and the role that Heiskanen's absence had opened up for him as well was significant. But you get to drop Nils Lundqvist down to the third pair, which I think if you're going to win the Stanley Cup, you don't want to be leaning on him too much more than that. And Borgen slides in beside Harley. And again, I'm just thinking of these top end teams and who's going to be really motivated for him. I think Dallas wanted Rasmus Anderson. They missed on him. They're looking at the teams in their division. Colorado locks down Sam Malinsky on the back end. You're talking about Minnesota. They obviously pick up Quinn Hughes a couple months ago. So as the rest of the teams they're playing against are improving, they're going to need to as well.
One last name for the New York Rangers, Alexi Lafreniere. He's one I undoubtedly think will be moved from this core. I believe they have fully spiritually and emotionally moved on from him being a long-term leader and member of this team moving forward. Where would be a nice fit? I've got two in mind, but I'm really curious to hear what you have to say. Do not say Vancouver.
I'm not gonna say Vancouver. I'd like him. I think it'd be pretty cool. I've been a big fan of his for a long time. Just I think the hockey IQ on Alexi Lafreniere, like you put him in the right spot, there's just going to be a click all of a sudden, and it's going to work. I think about the excess centermen that the Columbus Blue Jackets have, James. Like if you think about Columbus's wingers, it's Kirill Marchenko and Dmitry Voronkov. That's it, right? Like you need to convert Ken Johnson into a winger. Mason Marchment is playing some really good hockey, but I totally think they should cash in on that and trade him to a team that really wants some edge in the playoffs. That would give up some high end draft picks for him. Because I do think that's out there. There is a first round pick out there for Mason Marchment, at least first round pick and a B plus prospect minimum. So I look at Columbus and I say, who they just replaced their coach with?
The one and only Rick Bowness.
Yeah, so one of the most player-friendly coaches in the NHL is now taking over a team that I think, needs to treat Alexi Lafreniere maybe with some kid gloves. But as the youth, including Adam Fantilli, Cole Sillinger, Denton Matejka, Ken Johnson, all starts to swing up for Columbus. I know Lafreniere's a touch older than some of those guys, but I still look at that and I say, the Rick Bowness youth upswing, I think Lafreniere would fit in great there.
You would see one of those centers they have in the system going back the other way.
Probably, yeah. Well, on Charlie
Rangers
Coyle,
are currently playing a very weak portion of centers beyond Vincent Trocheck.
yeah, Sean Monahan's still there. I know Monahan's salary cap is it's $5.5 million until 2029, which isn't great. But I think that means you could get him for not too much return.
He's a full no move clause.
He does. Charlie Coyle's the other one. Guy who has been useful everywhere he's been. He was a 60-point player in Boston, 2 seasons ago? A lot of playoff experience. I think Coyle's the other guy that could be a leader in that Ranger locker room.
I get that one for sure. With that Rangers letter we read out last podcast, I see them targeting a player about the same age as Laff, right? That's kind of the idea I have in mind, but they used a key word in there, tenacious. And I think a little bit of tenacity is something they'd really want in this one. I look at the Calgary Flames, Aiden. I think Alexi Lafreniere on a Calgary Flames team that would be on the come up very slowly. There's not a ton of pressure, but there's a lot of emphasis on development. And I think about a Yegor Sharangovich as a really nice piece going back. I think about perhaps one of those prospects that's in the Flames system. I can't remember any off the top of my head, but I know there's quite a few wingers. Samuel Honzek being one of them. I think you cash in on the perhaps of Samuel Honzek for the potential of an Alexi Lafreniere, and you like what it brings to your roster. It gives you some variety in both of these organizations getting something that they don't currently have.
The only big rebuke is that Jonathan Huberdeau is the same player. And you already have a struggling left winger that is all craft, that needs to figure out how to be as productive as his talent level suggests he should be.
One of them is young, the other one is declining rapidly.
Yeah, he's 32. So again, I don't hate that. It's just that would almost signal to me that Jonathan Huberdeau, he's got to go. He's got to go somewhere else, right? Like that's the failure of Jonathan Huberdeau in Calgary if that's the case.
Hey man, where better for him to play than a team that is rebuilding at a slow pace? Where better?
Well, and he's better than what, like a Joel Farabee to me, who's the other kind of guy that the
Totally.
the, the Flames took a stab at in that capacity.
Well, Aiden, I think it's time we take things out of New York and we take a wider look around the NHL. And I should really preface this part of our podcast with, as we get closer to the NHL trade deadline, a lot of what we're going to be talking about is bits and pieces of sourced information from NHL reporters and insiders, and some of that includes ideas they might have. And I kind of have a bit of a gripe with how that looks sometimes. So I'm going to try and do my best not to bring that onto our podcast. Um, there's so much talk about Robert Thomas right now, and so much of that stems from the fact that the St. Louis Blues would reportedly look at an offer that blows them away. It absolutely blows every other idea out the water. Something where they absolutely could not say no. And that's exactly what it would have to be if you're moving a number one center in Robert Thomas. And for some reason, because of that, every single reporter, when speculating on their podcast, which I mean, if you're an NHL insider and you have a podcast, there has to be some speculation on there. You're not going to be able to fill an entire episode just with freshly sourced information. That's not possible. You have to add some entertainment in there, and you know we're big fans of these guys and these reporters and these insiders, and we like listening to their ideas. I totally like it, but unfortunately, some of that gets misconstrued. So right now, if you look online, every team and their dog is linked to Robert Thomas. That is wildly untrue. Robert Thomas could be a suggested fit for a lot of teams, much in the way that when Alex Pietrangelo was hitting the free agent market, he was quote unquote linked to every team. It's not a thing. He's not actually linked to these teams. He's not going to all of these teams. These teams haven't all made offers. That's not how this looks whatsoever. What is actually factual is the St. Louis Blues would consider taking a look at an offer that would blow them away, and there would sure be a lot of teams interested. That's it. So when you're reading mock trade Robert Thomas, potential Robert Thomas trade to this team, honestly, unless you're just looking for something to laugh at, you might as well keep scrolling. It's a gripe I have. I hope none of you get misunderstood when talking to your friends about it or anything like that. Because yeah, Robert Thomas isn't going anywhere anytime soon. He might if the right deal comes around, but that situation is the same for just about every other player in the NHL. If there's
With
the
that
right
being said,
moves a team anyway away, yeah.
with that being said, the Montreal Canadiens does make sense, James. It makes a lot of sense, and they have listen. They
Aiden, I can
have
throw 30 speculations at you that make sense right now.
okay. They are to me one of the only teams that I think you do two prospects back the other way, and it's done.
Okay, shoot.
Michael Hage and Alexander Zhuravsky get that trade done. Nobody knows how good this Zhuravsky guy is. Okay, this Russian guy, Montreal picked him in the second round in
How does that
2025.
how does that get it done though for an already established first line center who's under 27?
To me, the Hage of it is the
But he
centerpiece.
hasn't played a single NHL game yet. And he's unrealized college potential at this point.
So is this a St. Louis is tearing it down trade or a St. Louis is cashing in on a down year trade? Because you look at the rest of this Blues team, and I'm saying, well, if you're trading 26-year-old Robert Thomas, 27-year-old Jordan Kyrou is the other guy that's been in every trade
Yep.
discussion. Then what do you have left? You have Snuggerud and Neighbors. Well, Snuggerud, Neighbors, and Dvorsky are part of an upswing that you add Hage and Jarofsky to, and all of a sudden you've got a forward core with Dylan Holloway that looks like it's one of the more promising young ones in the entire NHL. And I think, like looking at, and that's not going to be the whole trade, even if it is Montreal, and even if both those guys are involved, they're still actually going to have to give up more. I'm just saying
Way
that
more.
that there is the skeleton there that the St. Louis Blues can buy themselves a long-term top-end forward core that includes both those guys, Neighbors, Snuggerud, Dvorsky. I'm missing one. Holloway. I think I'm still missing one even after Holloway. Otto Stenberg. That's the other
Oh
guy I'm
yeah,
missing.
yeah. Yeah.
For the St. Louis Blues.
And I think just like the reason I immediately like shy away from that, I immediately am just like shocked at the thought that like two prospects who haven't played yet for a current young entering his prime already top line center is
No, and
because
that, that that's
look at
me.
yeah,
That's me giving you an idea of how good I think both of these prospects are.
right.
But the trade in practice would be those two plus plus. Probably
Yeah.
you might see an Oliver Kapanen. I could definitely see that
High
going the
draft
other
pick.
way, and then a high draft pick. Yeah,
Okay, all right. Once we're there, I'm good. And then I think maybe taking you get the Oliver Kapanen in there. You already have the guaranteed NHL player. I believe that has to be a staple in these
yeah,
trades. Like with the Quinn Hughes deal, Marco Rossi gets the deal done more than Zeke Boyum does.
yeah. The if it's Kapanen and a first, it's not both Hage and Jarofsky. It's
No.
one or the other, and then maybe another prospect, one of the more Joshua Waugh, Owen Beck coded ones that
Totally,
could
yeah.
definitely be middle six forwards, but not the high end stars.
Because like somebody has to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like we're on the same page on that one. But Aiden, now that I've kind of given my rant about how people talk about trades, let's talk about some speculation. Let's talk about some reports. Where do you want to start? There are a lot of teams looking for a lot of things, and luckily we've had some bombs dropped on us by a lot of insiders.
Well, we already talked about Trocheck. We just talked about Thomas. We talked about Panarin. Um, the last guy that's big on my list is Nazem Kadri. The Flames apparently are willing to retain, and to me, that's the biggest part about this by far because Kadri's 35 years old, and he's got $7 million on him till 2029. The Calgary Flames in the next 3 seasons aren't going to need that $3.5 million that it'll take to half that salary to a potential suitor. James, we said this with Trocheck. How many teams don't want a Nazem Kadri?
Maybe 10.
And
Maybe.
they're all out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
All of them. Dallas is apparently like really really heavy on him, which again makes
Yeah,
sense
because
because
Dallas likes getting every former Avalanche player.
yeah. Not to
That's all
mention
they're
again,
They're
like
pretenders. That's why they'll never win.
I didn't think Matt Duchene was going to have as good a year this year as he's been having. I didn't expect it to be this bad, quite frankly.
He's been pretty decent over the last several games.
Yeah. Oh, and he started brutal. So
Yeah.
at the very least, yeah, there was nowhere to go but up. But there's no Tyler Seguin all year coming back for this Dallas Stars team. And the idea of having Nazem Kadri to mix into this top six behind Robertson, Hintz, Johnston, and Rantanen is just a dream. Like getting to, because you're basically adding him in the same way that the Colorado Avalanche won the Stanley Cup with him, right? In that secondary role, and you're buying a guy for a secondary role that can pop up and win you a game with a hat trick anytime.
Oh, he's a gamer, dude.
Yeah.
He's a gamer. He has every piece required to be a winner, and I'm a huge fan. But while we're on the Kadri thing, can we cross the potential Toronto reunion off the list completely? I think that is like the most ridiculous thing. He's already said outright he would never approve that, and we're all forgetting all the time that like he has to approve the deal. He has that right in his contract. I don't think he's going back to Colorado either. The money just quite simply would not work. And they already went and got their Brock Nelson. That's already exactly what that would be. They're not going to get Kadri to play on the third line at that price tag. And nobody's going to double retain that into $2 million. I'm sorry, but there's too much term. Not going to happen.
And then other part of it, then I think we're just looking at other teams that lost out on centers, right? Like if Florida wouldn't get Trocheck. Minnesota doesn't get Trocheck. Montreal doesn't get Thomas, right? Like that you then go to those teams we talked about with Thomas and then Trocheck. I think that would be next up. Florida, Minnesota.
I took a look at the big trade board. I think TSN puts it out every year, like all the most likely guys to get moved, and I was really pleasantly surprised to see all of those Sabres players off the list. I think they've earned that. But Aiden, is there
Alex
anything?
Tuck, James. Alex Tuck after the game said, and I quote, "We're not just going for the playoffs. We're going for the cup." And I've said for a long time, Alex Tuck has been like almost the example of the Buffalo Sabre, one of the only players that has never not looked like he wanted out, right? Like he has always been from the second he got traded there from Vegas, he was fired up to be there. And so you look at him, you look at the rest of the team, and if they finally make the playoffs, go as far as you can. I don't know how far it'll be, but hey, that first round between a Detroit and a Buffalo, the way things are sitting right now, it's anybody's.
Love it, love it.
Speaking of
Yeah,
Detroit, James, the Ben Sherratt contract was dumb. I'll quickly throw that in there. Sherratt, we saw two contract extensions for two defensemen this week. 3-year contract for Ben Sherratt, making $3.85 million. Mo Sider's worse when this guy's on the ice with him. Like Mo Sider's a better defenseman without Ben Sherratt. That's what he's been signed for. That's where they've been stapling him. Simon Edvinsson has stepped into a role that he should be on the ice for every second Ben Sherratt is. Axel Sandin Pellikka's playing with him right now. And it's not it's not working. Like Sherratt is not good with a puck on his stick. He's not even that good at covering his own zone anymore. It's a 34-year-old that to me at one point was a super solid number 4 defensive guy. And then Detroit paid him like he was a number 3, number 2, and now they are extending him further into his late 30s for a reason I cannot quite decipher. On the other
we're
end
not
of the
in that locker
spectrum,
room. We're not in that locker room. He could be the ideal guy growing up with that all of these young guys are growing up with. So like I understand. I'm looking at the advanced stats. It's one of the worst ones J Fresh Hockey has ever put together. Like
oh yeah,
it's really, really bad. But the fact of the matter is, they're not just going to give him that contract for no reason. The cap is going up. They have to spend it on something. I understand they have a lot of big contracts coming up over the next couple of years, but realistically, there is room for them to pay a defenseman who will probably sit on their third pair for most of that contract that much money.
okay. I'm gonna say that there are two defensemen on the Colorado Avalanche that have been as good as Sam Malinsky this season, and those players are Josh Manson, who's been a stalwart, always solid, and Cale Makar. But Malinsky, beyond those two, has impressed me more than anybody else on that
At the start
Colorado
of the
Avalanche
season,
back
when
end.
we were looking at the depth on the Avalanche blue line, you specifically said, I sure don't have a lot of faith in Burns and Malinsky to get the job done.
No,
Both of them have been fantastic.
yeah, Burns has greatly overachieved my expectations of him. I was definitely talking about those two playing together, and I might even still stand by that Malinsky would be in over his head trying to cover for Burns. But what Malinsky has done is carve himself out a role in this Colorado team as a second pairing defenseman, and for good reason, right? Like you can tell me just how good he always looks with the puck on his stick. He's a great play killer. Off the rush, he's fantastic at just shutting down zone entries and getting the puck back. Every time he goes back to get the puck, it's hard, right? Kevin Bieksa talks about it a lot.
Puck retrievals. Yeah.
Yeah, they need to turn your body and skate backwards towards the boards. That is hard because you are almost always taking a very fast hit. Malinsky does that pretty effortlessly. And to think, James, to think that Sherratt's getting just under $1 million less, like Malinsky's twice the player Sherratt is.
Yeah,
Steal.
that's totally
Bargain.
fair. Totally fair. I still stand by the fact that like we're not in that locker room. We don't know what he means to that organization. And I totally think it's fair to reward culture and to invest in culture. I think that's perfectly fine in pro sports. In fact, I encourage it. But yeah, I cannot argue with what the on ice product is whatsoever. Aiden, anything else around the NHL we have to keep an eye on? Players that could definitely get moved. Someone you expect to get moved sometime soon?
I'm gonna keep an eye on Vancouver, obviously. Right? I don't think they're done. I don't think it's Pedersen as much as the Pedersen stuff keeps swirling. I think the Pedersen stuff's out there
Never
because it's.
stops. I think that's just social media.
I think it's Vancouver. Yeah. Um, DeBrusque isn't going anywhere. I don't think Pedersen goes anywhere this year. Connor Garland and Evander Kane are the two players that I would be very interested in moving next. I think Garland has a lot of value for the player he is, which is just an absolute bulldog of a second liner, right? Like, throws everything out there. Is an absolute nightmare to play against. And then Evander Kane, you can get him for a fourth round pick easily at most. I think if the Dallas Stars, I think whoever wants Mason Marchment, James, and doesn't get Mason Marchment is might go look at Evander Kane as like a little
I
consolation
get that.
prize. Yeah. And I'm thinking Dallas as well if they have the money to make it work. They had and they liked Mason Marchment a lot.
Well, Aiden, I think it's time we move on from all the trade rumors and such. It's definitely stuff we'll be keeping an eye on and getting back to you with hopefully more updates on our next episode. But for now,
Really quickly before we go to your fantasy gamblers roundup, James, um, today is Friday, January 30th. 1 week from today is day one of the Olympic break. So this will be this is the NHL is winding to a close now. The trade freeze is Wednesday. So this podcast comes out on Saturday. The trade freeze is Wednesday. So we've talked a lot about trades, but by the time our next episode comes around, we'll talk about the trades that have already happened. But the speculation is going to be done. We're going to be in full swing Olympic mode.
very fun, very fun. Looking forward to it. But yes, now it is time for the fantasy gamblers roundup because you need to know when to hold them, you need to know when to fold them, and you need to know when to walk away. Knowing when to walk away is a very important one. That's I believe that is one of the best parts of asset management and fantasy, and usually the hardest one to do because you know your guy's rolling. You don't want to give up on him. But I at one time had a fantasy team a few years ago, and this is exactly a few years ago, not much more. And my core was somewhat primarily made up of Alex Ovechkin, Evgeny Malkin, and Patrice Bergeron, and Chris Letang. And I looked at that and went, "This is just not going to fly." Took me a couple years to reshuffle the deck, but it had to be done. Knowing when to walk away is very important. And I'm gonna start with a player of that style and of that idea. And Aiden, we talked a little bit about the Buffalo Sabres, and they've really surged. And goaltender Alex Lyon is a huge part of it. He's kind of got a knack for getting teams either into playoffs or into the conversation, making that big push towards the end of the season. He just has some like extra fight in him, and I love that. But there's a time when you have to cash in on value. And if you are not one of the top couple teams contending, fighting for a spot, or even if it's matchup style, if you're not trying to get as high up in the standings as possible, you do not need this sizzling hot Alex Lyon on your roster whatsoever. In fact, this is a player that should definitely be used as a package to either upgrade one of your main keepers or assets or get something for the future. Just use that to your advantage because his value likely will not be any higher than it is right now, other than in a year or two when he does this again, as he's done for the Florida Panthers, as he did for the Detroit Red Wings. It's just his thing. He's really into that, I guess. And I mean, I love it, but yeah, cash out.
And it's worth saying as well, these Alex Lyon career journeymen that pop in and out and in and out, because of the small amount that you actually see them, you don't realize how old they are. And Alex Lyon in 2026 is going to turn 34. That's the other
No.
thing to consider.
No. Really?
Yeah,
Oh my
at the end
God.
of the year, he's 33 right now. He'll turn 34 this year.
Yeah, don't use a keeper slot on him. Don't do it. Another one I've been keeping an eye on, and the only reason I haven't picked him up yet is because I don't need a center right now, is Jack McBain. Jack McBain has been filling in a bit of a role on the Utah Mammoth right now, playing a few more minutes than he usually would. Logan Cooley is out of the lineup right now, but yeah, Jack McBain over the last 30 days. He's done nothing but impress. In our league, he's averaging a 1.7 average. Your scoring will likely be different than ours, but he's only got 3 points in his last 6 games, but he fills all of the categories, or 4 points rather. But yeah, he fills all of the categories. He hits, he blocks shots, he takes shots on goal. He gets a lot of shifts in and around the net, whether it's offensive or defensive zone, and that's a huge benefit to you in fantasy. So if you're in a banger league of any kind and you're looking for some depth, whether it's because of injury or just because you're looking for that extra boost, give Jack McBain a shot. Aiden, I don't know what the Logan Cooley recovery timeline is, but I'm not expecting him to come in and take all of that category filling time away from McBain.
Yeah, Dylan Gunther is also hurt right now.
There you go.
That's worth mentioning too.
One more player I've got on my list. He hasn't done anything to really blow you away this season, unless you watch him on all of these power plays that don't result in a goal. And I mean, I understand that's a really silly thing to do, but the LA Kings have one of the league's worst power plays right now. I believe bottom 10 and has been for much of, if not all of the season. Brant Clark is stapled to that first unit, and there are so many talented players on that Kings power play. You look at Adrian Kempe, you look at Kevin Fiala, Kopitar when healthy, Byfield when he's on, he's not on right now, and Andrei Kuzmenko playing in and around the net sometimes as well. This power play has to get going at some point, and if it gets going, there's going to be an arms race to go pick up Brant Clark. And the thing is, he's LA's number one defenseman now. He plays just as many, if not more, minutes than Drew Doughty. Doughty is not always healthy, and Doughty's been completely dethroned from the first unit. There's zero reason for you not to make an aggressive push for Brant Clark, whether you're trying to win right now and you have the time and affordability to take a bit of a chance, or if you're planning for next season. So take your shot at Brant Clark right now. You need to know when to hold him, and you need to know when to fold him, and you need to know when to walk away. You're telling me if you have an Alex Lyon on your roster and a contending team has Brant Clark, that you can't make that swap? I think you can. Manage those assets. Have fun. I will see you guys in the next one. It's probably going to be a different kind of fantasy gamblers roundup next time as we're looking at the Olympics. I'll probably be giving you guys a bit of a special on planning for next season. But yeah, I look forward to that one. Aiden, I think we talk about shows and movies now. What have you been watching since our last episode?
I watched End of Watch last night. It's a cop drama starring Jake Gyllenhaal, Michael Pena, and Anna Kendrick from David Ayer. It's from 2012. It was very, very solid. This movie, I think, will age phenomenally today because it is so quick. Everything is happening time like one after another. It is so fast paced. The action comes out of nowhere and is very well shot. It's kind of shot documentary style, and there's no definitive timeline, but it's these two LA cops on the job for, you surmise it to be probably about a year, if not a little bit longer, and it's their story together fighting a particular set of crime syndicates in Los Angeles. And what makes it different is how quick and at you. It's almost like despite being from 2012, it's almost as if this is a police drama for kind of your social media generation, right? Like there's the way it's shot, documentary style, makes it feel real and makes it feel, and again, the pacing of it makes you feel very engaged. It's like you're watching one story after another, and you're invested in all of it. It was well shot. It was well made. Both Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena is a comedic actor. He was very funny in the movie, but he had a huge dramatic beat to play and exceeded my expectations in it.
Love it, man. It's definitely not one that I would have thought to go watch and see. I definitely would have looked at that cast and gone, yeah, that's a combination of characters I wouldn't
Yeah, I know.
expect. So that's quite interesting. I'll have to give that one a go. Aiden, I have two movies this time, and I couldn't decide between the two. I loved watching them both so much, and I was so shocked that I hadn't seen either of them. The first of those two is Civil War from 2024, directed by Alex Garland. He's one of the two visionaries behind the movie Warfare, which I absolutely adore. I think Warfare is one of the best movies that I've ever seen. It's just incredible. But Civil War is quite incredible as well. I mean, I love the casting. I love how they didn't try and kind of blow me away with any big names, but they're respectable names nonetheless. It's about a group of journalists in a slightly dystopian Civil War near future in the United States where uh, California and Florida have separately formed into independent unions, going to war against like a Central America group. And this Central America group is still led by the US president, who kind of triggered everything, all of this separation by disbanding the FBI and some other government things. And um, basically, the United States is a complete mess at this time. There's violence, there's raiding, there's active front lines all spread out throughout the country, and it's kind of weaseling its way towards the end of the war. All these different groups are making their way towards the White House, and this group of journalists wants to go in there and be the group of frontline reporters that sees the capture of the president and asks him a question. And it's led by Kirsten Dunst and a couple of veteran journalists with them, along with a young girl who wants to be the next great photojournalist, and she's completely oblivious to all of the darkness of war and all of the terrible things she's going to see out there. It's gripping, it's visually striking, and for a movie of the scale that I'm talking about, it does an incredible job with a relatively low budget. It's not a popcorn flick blockbuster. It's emotionally gripping. It's something that's going to make you sit and think. And there's one line in the movie. It reaches a point where they pull up to a house and they see there's gunshots coming from the house, and then there's gunshots coming from a few soldiers who are laying by on the lawn. And they stop and they ask these soldiers, they go, "Who are you fighting for? Who's in there?" And the soldiers go, "He's trying to kill me, and I'm trying to kill him. I don't know who he fights for. I just know I don't want to die right now." And the journalists are just so shocked and blown away by it. It's it's an incredible movie. Highly recommend. I believe it's on Prime right now. I'd give that a watch before just about anything else. Definitely one of the best movies I've seen made in the past couple of years. Next up on the list, though, I watched The Talented Mr. Ripley. That's a Matt Damon classic that I have always had on my list and I never got around to. It's from 1999. It stars Matt Damon. We've also got Jude Law, Gwyneth Paltrow, Kate Blanchett, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Like fantastic cast. I believe this movie was nominated for quite a few awards. It's kind of a bit of a character study that takes you on an adventure through Europe as kind of a bit of a liar and manipulator, played by Matt Damon, is he's sent to Italy to retrieve a very rich man's son who and bring him back to America. And he kind of just gets stuck in this like kind of like fun-loving socialite life over in Italy, and things take a bunch of different turns. It's the kind of thing where you never truly know how you feel about the main character whether they're the protagonist, the antagonist, or anything in between. And I love that. I love not knowing how I'm supposed to feel about the movie. You don't get that too often. Often it's really telegraphed and they want you to feel this way about a character. But they leave this one really open. I thought the sound was done really well. I thought the visuals were fantastic. And I love like this mostly takes place in a couple small Italian towns and then in Rome. I think there's a little bit in Venice as well. I think there's a little bit in New York at the start, but it's it is an awesome, awesome movie. I have a very tough scale. I give this one like an 8.5 out of 10, maybe closer to a 9. It's close to 3 hours long. I didn't watch it all in one go. I watched about half of it, stopped, went and did a few things, and came back. That wasn't because of the movie pacing wise. I would have watched it start to finish, but um it's kind of split up into acts, so you feel okay taking a step away from it. I highly recommend it to everyone, but it's not your modern day blockbuster. There are slow burning parts of it. So if you aren't someone with a lot of patience while watching a movie, don't give this one a go. I recommend this one to my film nerds. Aiden, is there anything else you have this episode?
Can't think of anything aside from the fact that this is going to drop on Saturday, January 31, which means we would be, what, I think February the 11th is the official start of the Olympics.
Yep,
We're getting there.
almost there,
Get,
guys.
get fired up. Stay fired up.
Thank all of you guys for listening to this one. Without further ado, let's roll that outro.